Exploring the unknown, from conspiracies to mysteries. You are entering the conspiracy sector.
Welcome everyone to this very special program. I'm your host, Aubrey Batchelor. Sailing this amazing ship of knowledge with me is Chris Jacobs, and you are entering the conspiracy sector. I hope you have been well since the last episode. It's been a bit. Chris and I have been kind of having chaotic schedules as of late. He's been moving, I've been slaving, and now we're realigned and in operation. But hope you've been doing good. Everything's been going well, and it's time to take a bump on the freaky and paranormal wild side today. We're going to be talking about two mysterious places that are creepy and crawling with everything paranormal you could think of, from UFOs to paranormal creatures to interdimensional time voids. I mean, you name it, it's probably going on in this place. We're going to be talking about Stardust Ranch today, and everybody's favorite, most well-known paranormal ranch, Skinwalker Ranch, which is a very creepy, crawly place full of paranormal activity.
hmm
Chris, how you been?
Oh, doing pretty good for people that are curious. Yeah, we got fully settled out here. Joanna's got a better job out here. Virginia Beach, far better energy than where we left in Prescott Valley. We lived in the Granville neighborhood of Prescott Valley there, and the energy was just get really wonky. And so both people were putting out this funky atmosphere because not only the politics and the energies and the hotbed of activity and everything. It was just this chaotic soup that was like forming out there. And so we decided to move out to Virginia Beach. And we noticed, even though there's a lot of history out here too, we noticed the energy is much better by the ocean. So
Hmm,
it's serving us better than Prescott Valley was. My mother and my stepfather Laverne are also heading this way at the time of this recording. So they're going to be living out here with us as well with our little dog Sammy. So yeah, it
nice.
and so yeah, and weather's nice out here. Notice that yeah, the energies are not bad. We've had a couple of paranormal instances with ghosts and such here, a couple entities, but it hasn't really been like it was in Arizona. You get most of the hotbed activity out here of any paranormal activity are these like bug crustacean insectoid type like demonic types that are out here. But
Hmm,
other than that, that's a show in and of itself. The whole Blair Witch thing. That is
hmm.
one that we could probably touch on at some point about the big spider entity that was preying on children and such. But it
Huh,
was
yeah, that'd be a good
uh,
one.
that's those entities are all up the coast and they come out every like 20 years or something like that out of the sea. But yeah, that's a show in and of itself because it would take too long to explain that one. But here the yeah, it's great energy. The reason I wanted to touch on these two places is because these are really heavily hotbed activity areas of both alien dimensional and all sorts of forms of paranormal activity. And
Mhm.
Stardust is the slightly lesser known one. It's basically the little cousin to Skinwalker. And
And it's in Buckeye, Arizona.
Buckeye, Arizona. Yeah, me and Joanna went past there just before we left Arizona. We went past. I was like, okay, I want to see this before we leave. And Joanna's like, why? We don't want stuff following us home and all this other stuff. Like, yeah, I know, but we'll be there
Just
maybe
to
a
say you seen it and you're right there.
yeah, and we're right there, and Buckeye was right there, and she's like, okay, fine.
Why not?
Yeah, the story behind that is the guy who owned it before. I gotta look at his name real fast.
It was John and Joyce, I think was their name.
Yeah, John and
Edwards.
Joyce. Yeah, yeah. And what happened was he bought this place to be like a horse ranch, just a simple horse ranch there. And you can
Hmm.
tell when you drive up on it, it's just there's a string of properties out there. There's this. They always say it's this lonely road, but yeah, there's other things
John
that
and
go
Joyce Edmonds. John and Joyce
Edmonds.
Edmonds.
Yeah, and they built it for that, but then all this activity started. And it's like with Skinwalker. They're very similar in their paranormal makeup. And the reason is they have an anomaly in common. Came to find out it's not just a portal that's on this problem. You have vortexes, portals, and you have dimensional cracks, fissures, and doorways. But there's one that just kind of trumps all of them, and this is that's a time fracture. And
Okay.
these are extremely complicated anomalies that ETs can use to fuel their vessels. Things from other universes, like anywhere in the multiverse, can pass through other time frames. This is why on Stardust Ranch you had this when John Edmonds and his wife moved there. They started to notice this hotbed of activity. The aliens that were there gravitated to them and wanted to abduct them for their genetics. He famously killed one of them with a sword. At least he told the Ghost Adventures crew that. And this
So what he
alien
said, he says
disintegrated.
John claims that the only way to kill these entities is to decapitate them, cut their head off,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll vanish, like similar to kind of like we were talking in pre-show, like a vampire on like True Blood or something.
Where they
Uh,
melt into the strings or they vanish in the dust type of thing. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and
And
poof,
that's
they're
how
gone
Greys
dead.
do it. Yeah, Greys will do this. If you cut their head off, they will fall into like this pile of goo, or some of them will just disintegrate into dust. I've seen this myself. I haven't managed to kill one myself, but this is what
Mm-hmm.
others have reported to me too, that they've managed to do it. And what I find fascinating is, of course, he learned how to repel them, but he didn't want his wife getting hurt, because if he learned how to do it, doesn't mean the aliens won't go to someone, a loved one around you. So
Mm-hmm.
they took off, which surprised me actually. And I'm getting a little mind wipe there. Okay, when we drove up to this place, we wanted to
Mm-hmm.
see if we could pay to get in, look around, do all that other stuff. What surprised me when we drove up on this place is it looked incredibly overgrown, it looked uninhabited, and it
So they're not
looked,
taking care of it.
yeah, there were no animals there. It looked like that show Life After People. And that's what it reminded me of. The house was overgrown with vines and all this other stuff. I get out to use the ghost box, and I will put that whole session I did at the end of this show, because I thought it was very interesting. A car pulls up on us immediately when we're
Hmm.
there, and this person gets out and just asks, like, "Oh, do you know where this particular street is?" I knew he was a security guy. He
Mm-hmm.
screamed security, law enforcement, soldier, military type. But
Mm-hmm.
he was in plain clothes, and I said, "No, no, no, we're fine." And he took off driving. But then it was creepy when we did the ghost box session and left. We noticed we were being followed out of there by this same person.
Hmm.
But the thing, back to the time fracture, what is interesting about this phenomenon, and Skinwalker has this too, bigger one, where you have something that may have ripped a hole in space time.
Mm-hmm.
And originally, because a long time ago on the Earth there was a war that was from different timelines, different places. They called it the Temporal War. This is what caused these anomalies to begin with. Dealing with a set of beings that didn't care what damage they did at the time, essentially, what
Mm-hmm.
environment they polluted. But anyway, this phenomenon, if you could see it, it looks like just a scribble, like if you took a pencil and scribbled on a piece of paper. And there's
Hmm.
only three that I know of that are like this: Skinwalker, Stardust, and the site where the Conjuring movie was filmed. So,
Weird.
and
Why
this
is
up on
that?
the hill there. I'm not sure why that property where the Conjuring was filmed has it, but they seem random where these sometimes pop up. And what these anomalies do is a spaceship can fuel on top of it, kind of like they can for a vortex. Um, they
Mm-hmm.
a being, like, say if you have something from the ancient past, like you have like an animal like a dire wolf that people have spotted on Skinwalker, where
Mm-hmm.
you have a wolf that from that time frame that could come into this one just by stepping through a part of this fracture that is always
Mm-hmm.
fluctuating and always moving. If you could see it, it would be like the strings, like a ball of yarn moving like this. It
Mm-hmm.
would end up over here, and the first thing it did on the show was attack some llamas that they had pinned up. There was a creature that
Hmm.
came in. What happened was then it disappeared. Well, also you have dogmen there that are sometimes associated, not good ones. Bad ones that can be bound and used in satanic rituals and such, curses. Hence, you have the native Navajo that cursed the Utes, or I believe it was the Utes that cursed the land, or the Navajo that cursed the land there. What happened was on, I'm not sure how the origins happened on Stardust, but this particular anomaly, these aliens would of that were coming in could have passed from another section of the multiverse, another dimensional sliver, and they could have come in to abduct. Many people think it's always associated with space, and it can be associated with time, universe, multiverse, omniverse, super omniverse, and dimensional spaces. And there's also the concept of worlds within worlds as well, where you have Earth and you have a whole string of dimensional spaces. You also have the multiverse of multiple Earths too, and you have the planet which we're on. And there's a difference between planets and worlds. You have a planet that is an access point or a nexus to worlds that are dimensional spaces that are just like ours. You can step to them, but they may even have a different set of stars, different sky, or they could share our sun and they could share our stars. Just a different time frame. I know of one that looks like the Arizona desert, but is in a Nevada desert, but it's on a slightly different time frame. It would be the same as basically saying our time versus London's time, but that's how far off the time skew is. But the fracture, you could literally have a man standing in a parallel universe sending a text, and the anomaly would grab a hold of that signal, send it over and arc it to someone on our side, and we would get that text. And these anomalies shift, and wherever that opening is on the one side, whatever anchor point it happens to be holding on to, or pin point that it's holding on to, then would rotate on the other end to our end, and it would create a temporary conduit. These anomalies are unstable at best on a good day, and they showed it correctly in an episode of Star Trek Next Generation where there was a wormhole stable on one end, and it was like a fire hose on the other end. And very similar, but it just went from Alpha Quadrant to Delta Quadrant in the show. But imagine both ends, and they're all wrapped up in a knot, and that's and it can go to any time frame, any space, any dimension. And they depicted that type of anomaly 100% correct on Doctor Who, where
really
they go back to this time frame that was in Charles Dickens' time, and there were these specters that were haunting this house, and they find out these were aliens that got displaced by the Time War. That was a real historical event they were depicting, galactic history-wise. What happened was these aliens ended up being bad, mind you. They were just dimensional invaders. They were just making crap up. But what happened was the anomaly they were using was a time fracture. And eventually, later on, the main character, the Doctor, reveals that he could take his TARDIS, go into any time frame, sit on that anomaly, and fuel his TARDIS cells up for fueling the power cells. So that was a bit of disclosure of what aliens do. Also at Skinwalker, they do the same. Now, what is going on?
So you think that they're fueling sites?
Yeah, they can use them as fueling sites, but these are anomalies that, of course, happened during the old war time frames, but they can be used. These were originally hot spots to begin with anyway, and dimensional spots. It's just they got warped, and that carpet got rubbed one too many times on that spot. But the fact that this does this weird like yarn ball effect, the ships can sit on top of it and basically kind of almost control the rotation to get the energy from multiple places and multiple times. If you were to pull that energy from one spot, you drain it too quickly. This is why time fractures and time anomalies like that are the best for a UFO to refuel some power cells, because you're pulling it from multiple universes, multiple places, and multiple times. And they all refuel themselves. So it's a constant rotation. There's almost no way to close a time fracture. So it's they might find a way. Huh?
Can't blow it up.
No, you actually make it worse if you fuel it and then it becomes larger. So it's essentially like a paradox. So uh, that's essentially what you're dealing with on both Skinwalker and Stardust. Now, when I was at Stardust, you could feel this anomaly there, and it felt both. It's in a quantum state since it's connected to the multiverse. So it it felt both good and bad at the same time, and it felt both like it's pulling and repelling you at the same
Hmm.
time, and uh, and it's both spinning and stationary. And
Hmm.
so it's essentially a quantum state, like all the rules of the multiverse and dimensions rolled into an anomaly.
Really?
And yeah, and
A lot of
these are
energy in a weird piece of technology.
oh yeah,
Or
technology could
natural,
control
or
it.
a natural phenomenon. Is it nor natural phenomenon, other than a
Now, Earth is
created?
on a temporal nexus point that can access other universes. It used to be connected to a phenomenon like you'll recognize this in Norse and Scandinavian mythology, the Bifrost, which was connected to originally the world of Asgard, which then that's our asteroid belt. That was the
Hmm.
Ragnarok. The Bifrost eventually had to recombobulate here on Earth. Therefore, you have the fracture points, like the other ends of the fire hoses, in different places. And that pathway could go both dimensionally, time-wise, and planetary travel. So that's where you get the pathway, the road of the gods, all that other stuff from ancient mythology. But this is these are like the fractured, frizzled, like wire, like frayed wire ends of that. Uh, and these frayed wire ends were again hot spots and natural portal sites to begin with, and they may heal in time. They may, if left alone, they would more than likely even out. But the two sites, what I also find very interesting is you have Skinwalker, which is a larger time anomaly, but then you have other things that are going on. You have an alien spaceship buried there that more than likely crashed because of the damn anomaly that's there. You have different energies where if an alien ship tries to come in, or a dimensional craft sometimes tried to come in, Earth is wonky at best when it comes to both the energies and the magnetic and energy fields. So if they try to portal in somewhere, if you have an anomaly like on Skinwalker, it's going to do this and go and
Hmm.
just send you everywhere, and then you're going to be materializing in the side of a mountain somewhere, and
Hmm.
it wreaks havoc on space travelers everywhere. Their compasses go absolutely stupid. The biggest time fracture of all time is the most well-known phenomenon of all time, which is the Bermuda Triangle. So
Hmm.
that's associated with Atlantis and ancient Atlantean technology as well. And it stems back to an event that took place on Atlantis, where there was a time fracture event that took place in the final moments before Atlantis's destruction. So you can trace time fracture events in by the by partially back to Atlantis, but
Hmm.
mostly back to the wars preceding Atlantis. But then Atlantis is to blame for at least a third of those things you're running into. But uh,
So where did Atlantis go?
it actually fractured into both. Again, it's a quantum state, both existing and not existing.
Hmm.
You have the undersea kingdoms, like with the Mer people here. Then you have another dimensional space where Atlantis never went away. Then you have a destroyed version of it, which is Antarctica. So you see how a fracture could have all things, all stories existing at once, and but they're all true. It's just like in the Elder Scrolls, they called that the Dragon Brick effect in
Hmm.
in the Elder Scrolls series, where Tiber Septim uses the Nimidium and it fractures, does a time fracture where both some cultures existed and did not exist. Some people were regular people and gods at the same time. It
Hmm.
had that effect. So this is the level of technology they had on Atlantis. This is what caused the Bermuda Triangle, because there's an island at the Bermuda Triangle that there was a piece of old technology that was sitting on that was being fueled by one of these anomalies. And that's what the Bermuda Triangle is. It's a more advanced version of a time or temporal fracture. So, and there is a military island at the center of that where this particular military sect can navigate. Now, with places like Skinwalker, you have philanthropists like Bigelow
Yeah.
that funded. research on the place. Now, the current thing that's going on, I'm not dumping on this. I want to make sure if anybody from the show is hearing me, I'm not dumping on this in any way, shape, or form. But there is part show going on. There's part, what I call the yield of information. True information mixed with a scattering of like show and some crap and stuff like that put in there. What I did see that was absolutely true was, well, or what I think is at least true, is you have the new owner of Skinwalker Ranch, who it looks like they are performing a public, like, double blind test, like people that are not associated with the original Bigelow projects. And it looks like they're wanting a fresh group of people to actually figure things out there.
180.
Yeah, 180. And then
of investigative work.
Yeah. And also put a narrative out there that would be more palatable to the public and to whatever agenda somebody is trying to enact. An example is you have what they're currently doing there. They show this anomaly that's over the top of Skinwalker. That part of that is the time fracture itself, where probes will wrap around it, lasers will bounce off it, but there's also a piece of technology that's there that I called the eye in the sky, or eye of Sauron. I lovingly called this because this is artificial intelligence. This goes into that territory. What I have, anytime we get a synchronicity about some of this AI activity and also alien temporal fracture activity, and the synchronicity that always pops up is this sequence from Skinwalker Ranch where they are at the show, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, is where they're bouncing a laser off of this anomaly in the sky, and it's hitting like something spherical that's there. This is alien tech though, but it is being fueled by the actual fracture that's there. When they were trying to scan it, and in conjunction to the star patterns that were there, the computer kept erasing the different star patterns from its database, and I found that very fascinating. Even though I think certain shows are linked to certain narratives that are being put out there, there's still some truth being presented in them.
Mm-hmm.
And you always got to know there's going to be some narrative. We got a channeling once that said anything public is narrative or contains narrative. So this, you got to take it with a grain of salt, but this was a synchronicity to that, which I found interesting. But I know it seemed like I went off on a skew, but
no, sounded good.
But
a lot of information.
A lot of these two sites, I wanted to actually get a look at a time fracture up close. I would not recommend anybody try, if you do what I do and bilocate and look into stuff, I would not recommend connecting to it. It's like sticking a fork in a light socket. You don't want to do that. But or unless you want your energy fractured for a little while and have to recover from it. But when I went there, I didn't open up like I would at home. I just did the ghost box, asked a few questions, and we left. But I find it fascinating that they still had people watching it, yet there's nothing going on there. And this tells me also government front as well, where there would be a passage to a base, because this is a slightly well-known secret that the military and corporations and people that have corporate interests, like with Bigelow and like with the new owner of Skinwalker Ranch, anybody like Elon Musk or anybody like that.
That's Brandon Fugal in the History Channel.
Yeah, and yes, these corporations are very interested in these sites. The military tend to build bases around some of these sites, like you would have, like in Stargate. They had the Stargate program within a deep base at Cheyenne Mountain. It's something similar where they will build, if it's an ancient portal site or a site that would prove aliens or dimensional spaces or some kind of portal access, they build bases around these sites. And so chances are, if you find an anomaly like this or have activity like this, chances are the military and corporate interests are involved somewhere, where they are in the area somewhere watching, observing, or they're underground doing some scans, or they have people in the area that are keeping a watchful eye on this. But that's essentially what I feel Stardust Ranch is at the moment, where we didn't see what was there, but any of the number of those houses could have been made into a passage into a base, just like in the movie Resident Evil, where you see the mansion is a passage to the base underneath. So that's in neighborhoods. There's watch towers and watch places in the neighborhoods all over the place. Like you also see in the Fallout game series where you see one of the vaults underneath an access point under a neighborhood. That's true. And you see a rail system underneath. That's in Fallout 76 if people are curious. But
Hmm.
for Vault 79, that's in the storyline for the Gold Vault. But with this, chances are they already have people in the area that are actually keeping a watch on this place. Skinwalker, they play ignorant, like new owner plays ignorant, but he wants to see how much this other crew can find out.
Hmm.
Narrative aside, I feel that that's also part of it as well.
Well, like you said, 180 Research, that Robert Bigelow, they kept everything as about as secret as could be,
Mm-hmm.
and spent a lot of money building a lot of things and doing a lot of investigative work. So they were about as private. While the new people are still private with their property, they're about as open as can be. A History Channel show, putting an
Mm-hmm.
audience out there, two totally different owners.
Oh yeah, it's we've seen it a few times. I mean, of course they do play things out for television as
Yeah,
well,
well,
but
yeah, of course.
you kind of have to. But still, there are synchronicities that pop up periodically with the show for us when we get to watch it. And I find it interesting, like the recent experiment they did with drones, where they were able to wrap the drones around the anomaly in the sky. They're focused on this anomaly that's in the sky last time we saw it, but I see that as both the time, a part of the time fracture they're seeing, and also the spaceship or dimensional orb that is actually, or what should I say, part of the eye in the sky or AI binary network that's there as well. So you have all of these things in play, from dimensional beings that can also pass through this anomaly, and if they pass into our physics, they say if you have a universe or a dimensional space, that's one set of physics.
Yeah.
You have ours that are locked into our set of physics, and you have those beings and their spaceship that cross the boundary. Their spaceship and their physiologies will match whatever codes they had over here, will match into our physiology and change, or our physics here, and they'll change into some weird shape that may not look like how they looked like in their space. And they presented this in the show Farscape very, very well, where they had an ancient being that was following the character of Crichton around. He took the form of his father a lot in the series.
Hmm.
And what happened was, he said when he crossed the dimensional barrier, he looked really weird. He looked like some Muppet or something like that when he came through. And then he was able to shapeshift his molecules to Crichton's father's form to appease him, like those gray aliens did for Travis Walton in the Fire in the Sky incident, where they changed from the alien forms into human form. It's similar in that fashion. Those were grays using mental telepathy and shape shifting, but this was dimensional space. And the character even said, "I don't look like this. This is how your physics dictated I look," sort of thing, and in your dimensional space. So this is true of Skinwalker, and also time links from ancient history. You get cryptids that pass through there. In the outlying lands, of course, you have Sasquatch sightings, you have Dogman sightings, you have curses that the Native Americans laid down on the land. You have like the Navajo and the Utes and Paiutes
Mm-hmm.
area. Then you have
I was
they
going
had.
to say, didn't supposedly the Navajo create the Skinwalker, unleash the Skinwalker?
Yeah, hence the name. And the Skinwalker, think skin walking, shape shifting. That would be werewolf. So
Yeah,
you have
similar.
yeah, and also the Rougarou of the South.
Yeah,
In the bayous.
Dogman. Yeah, the Rougarou.
Same thing. I found out it's a series of the clan of Dogmen. I found out that live down there, that are from, again, the Atlantean period, and they've been trying to scare people away from the bayous for a while down there. So they started doing all these haunting activity down there. It's a group of benevolent beings that live there. But on Skinwalker, of course, you have dogmen from the surrounding areas, but then you have the Navajo that, in certain invocation binding rituals, you can take a dimensional being like a dogman, bind them, and turn them into a weapon. Hence, you can unleash a Skinwalker curse on somebody, or the curse of the Rougarou, which is essentially based on the same thing. I was able to figure that out. Satanic cults like to bind beings into like crystals, skulls, all this other stuff, and use them to and also jinn fall into the same category. And so, like with the King Solomon and the jinn in his ring, where he controlled him with his ring to build the temple. So it's the same difference, and that's essentially where you get the Skinwalker thing from. Now, with a human that gets infected with a Skinwalker, it's considered no different than a demonic possession at that point. But and some dogmen are dimensional. Some are some are they're physical in the dimensional sense too, but they're in a different frequency. But if they occupy a human, it is no different than a demonic entity. That is, if it's the bad kind. There are kind and benevolent ones out there as well, like with forest people, Sasquatch people, which would be a show in and of itself. We did one on the forest people in Dogman, but that would be a whole like 2 hours by itself.
Oh boy, maybe a whole week.
But this, I was told if the reptilians were gone tomorrow, that certain clans of dogmen would be no different than them, and they would kind of take their place after a while. Some that were more warped by certain energies and certain tendencies and feral nature, stuff like that, predatory nature. But some are good, even ones that go into that. But yeah, like with us, they run the gambit. But what I'm trying to say is they can be, unfortunately, be used in negative satanic and Luciferian rituals too, and have been. And also what the Native Americans did too with their cursing of Skinwalker. So so you're getting a mixed bag in those two places. So I know that was a long way around to get to this point, but
it was good information.
Yeah. I know there was some things you wanted to read on it as well.
Well, I kind of touched on it just a little bit, but let's go with Stardust Ranch first. Okay. This is actually an article you shared pre-show a little bit that I came across.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just happened to find that this morning. So
it's from the 12 News website. Arizona man, I am selling my ranch after aliens tried to abduct my wife. The current owners purchased this property 20 years ago to run a horse rescue. The property's listing reads, over the years, they have experienced a series of strange events that continue to this day. And there is John Edmonds right there.
Place to operate their hopeful horse rescue and live in the country. The ranch has been John first started seeing mysterious lights in the sky, followed by orange orbs. That's when the uninvited guests arrived. Literally gray aliens that attacked animals. They were in the house. John recalls one unforgettable experience involving gray aliens attacking his wife. Actually led it to out of the bed in Massachusetts, out into the parking lot, and tried to draw her up into Gail Jason claims to have been visited by extraterrestrial life since she was 4.
So there's a little bit of an interview with John Edmonds. He claims all these different paranormal happenings with the Greys, especially. With 5 bedrooms, 4 baths, and nearly 3,500 square feet of living space, a ranch property just about an hour west of Phoenix has everything you could ever ask for in an Arizona home. A pool, lots of acreage, a gated entry for privacy, and a possible portal to another universe. What did you call it? Not a portal, but a
time fracture or temporal fracture. There's portals included in that, but yeah.
Yeah. The current owners purchased the property 20 years ago to run a horse rescue. The property's listing reads, over the years, they've experienced a series of strange events that continue to this day. John Edmonds, owner of the Stardust Ranch in Rainbow Valley, has documented the aftermath of certain strange events. He has experienced in photos on his Facebook page. In one particular photo, a samurai sword lays in a pool of what appears to be dried blood. Let's just see. Right there it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, the blood allegedly belonging to an alien, he says, he killed on March 13th, 2017, is his own comment on the photo. Edmund claims that he has slain over a dozen extraterrestrials on his property. Almost immediately from the day we moved in, we began to have strange experiences, Edmund said. Other photos on Edmund's Facebook page feature injuries he says he's suffered during encounters. Wounds from recent attacks here at Stardust Ranch appeared right calf from battle with malevolent ET. He wrote on one photo, added in another posting the same day, this is why I want to move. There's the supposed injury. He also said that aliens had tried to abduct his wife. They actually levitated her out of the bed in the master chamber and carried her into the parking lot, like he said in his interview. The property should be no stranger to fans of the extraterrestrial and paranormal. Stardust Ranch, aka Alien Ranch, was featured in an episode of Ghost Adventures, which I read. This is like he's quadrupled the price since that, episode. So fame kind of,
So fame became part of it.
yeah, a little bit. There are thousands of people, both nationally and internationally, who follow the owner online and have strong beliefs about aliens and the paranormal. Reaching these people online to generate a buzz about the property has been my number one marketing strategy, Jarrow said. This isn't the type of property you can just place on the MLS and wait for a buyer to come along. So they're playing reality games. The Stardust Ranch is listed at $5 million. Obviously, it's going to take a unique person who has a true curiosity and interest in the property's history, Jarrow said. But I have no doubt that there is a buyer out there for this special place. Edmonds agrees that his home is not traditional, but for the right person, it could be a great fit. It's a mixed bag. It's not something for the traditional family, but it holds lots of secrets and what I believe are future opportunities to understand forces that are the universe, he said. Please be very well grounded because the energy here has a tendency to manifest with whatever is going on with you. So, weird.
Yeah, definitely. I found it also kind of synchronistic. There was that ad where somebody was cleaning their feet on there, and that's essentially what you have to do after you leave there. You have to kind of cleanse your footsteps. So I found that very interesting.
Yeah, that's freaky.
And also, there was a woman in that interview that said there was nothing but benevolence there. It depends on also not only what you walk in there with, what you yourself are personally connected to, what other beings are interested in, like your blood type, your energy, like the Greys. Those two probably had something like the Rh blood factor or something like that. O negative blood, something these beings wanted. They were also harassing the animals. Greys are known for the cattle mutilations and all that other nonsense, but that's also shown in of itself. You do the cattle mutilation thing, but with this, the I keep getting mind wiped
You're
on
right.
this one part. I just feel what it feels like is like this graze that kind of goes over your head, and you just kind of your thoughts get wiped for like a nanosecond. But what happened was the other lady that moved there said she had nothing but benevolence. She had cancer and went there and was healed. She more than likely connected on a spot like that, given that fracture. She probably connected to something that was more conducive to her energies because she more than likely was not of something that the negative beings wanted to harvest or attach to in some fashion. She probably had something that was more like a soured milk effect to them, kind of like in Trek, there in Next Generation, where Scotty suggests getting this, or not Scotty, but the Forge suggests that changing the energy output of the Enterprise so that this space creature, this baby, would dislodge from the engine core, and it's essentially the same thing. Sometimes some people's energy frequencies are like a soured milk effect to another entity, and they want nothing to do with you. So I could see where that person, went in with this mindset that she was going to be healed, therefore was able to rotate that anomaly to the correct frequency, input, output, essentially. But he went in there with really not that intention, and his wife went in there without that intention. So it kind of was like this roulette wheel, what they got, and hence, ta-da, you have grays that pop out. So when you're entering a site like that, you have to have really strong intentions, protection, all of that. And also Sedona, it's like that. People think it's just this big because of the vortexes there. Oh, it's just this big healing energy. No, it enhances whatever you are. And like what he was saying in the interview, there John was saying in the interview, it enhances whatever you bring to the table and whatever you happen to be, whatever your cells
feeds off of you.
Yeah, yeah. And so that woman could have very well been healed going there. I don't doubt that for a second. I wouldn't go there for that because the energy's too chaotic. It's chaos there, so I wouldn't do that. It's like a chaos effect, whatever is happens to align to, big roulette wheel, even more so than roulette. But I find these places fascinating. I mean, we could go into it for hours on those places, but it's like, but I think like ones we could do, and this is what Aubrey and me, everybody were talking about before recording, was doing like a special on like of the activity of where we are and some of the history and myths and stuff around where we're at in the country. So I find that would be a great one. But also, this might, unless you have anything else to add, like something about Skinwalker or anything you want to add, we can
Yeah,
bring it
let's
into
talk a little bit more about Skinwalker
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
I'll share a little article about that. Pop it on over here, and let's say bye-bye to John and Joyce Edmonds. There's a little picture of the ranch just to finish with Stardust. There's the gate.
Yeah, it was very overgrown when we went there. That's the clean version of it. We went there and it was pretty
Let's just
rusty and
look at
crusty.
this
Yeah.
photo gallery real quick to finish with Stardust. There's the supposed alien gray that he captured on camera.
They do kind of look like that. The ones I've encountered had larger heads, but and shorter neck, but
These are
similar.
supposed UFOs. Oh, I guess it's a video.
Okay. Yeah, Skinwalker's got that as well.
There's
Yeah.
that picture we all seen, the supposed samurai kill.
The bad thing about that picture
Aerial
is,
view.
though, the bad thing about that picture with the sword is the alien blood is not red. It's not made of copper or not made of iron like ours is. They have a blue like gel like blood usually. I've noticed. So that picture, I'm not doubting his story about killing the extraterrestrials.
They have
It's
like a
just
soapy blood. Is it like gel soap? Kind of like gel
Yeah, it's like a
soap?
hand sanitizer that's like a really deep blue color. Yeah. Kind of like this button that's on the screen that you have at the bottom, that blue color, like those the click buttons and
That
stuff.
open button.
Yeah, it's that color. And I've seen it myself, and it can turn easily to black goo as well if you put it in the right conditions. So now I could see that being elements of black goo instead of blood, because some of it is like brown, silvery, and black. So I could see that. But if he's saying that that's just blood, no, it would either have to be the black goo or their blood is blue when it starts out, or has this gel that covers their brain cavity. So, and their innards. They're essentially robots, but they have like this gel lining their system. So I've seen this stuff in person myself. So it is usually like a blue hand sanitizer, but I don't doubt that that's black goo on the ground and not blood. So I could see that being that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's
That's
an
AI
aerial.
essentially. Yeah. So.
There's an aerial view. There's this nice pool. The owners say they first realized there was odd activity on the site when all of the furniture ended up in the pool the first day they were there 20 years ago. That's what I read too. Apparently they were having troubles with realtors, and the old owners didn't move their furniture. He complained. The old owners came back, moved out all their furniture, moved their furniture, and then their furniture's into the pool. There's some grounds, corral, our horses. La-di-da. That's kind of Stardust.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, it looked like that when we went, but it's very overgrown now. If anybody pays a visit to it now, it's very overgrown and very kind of crusty, old feel now. It's not been maintained.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it's decrepit and somebody ain't taking care of it.
Yeah, there was no animals there when I went, no people. That's why we were surprised somebody pulled up behind us, because this guy came out of nowhere. I was like, where did you hide from? Further up the road, there's active ranches and everything. But where Stardust is, there's nothing there. So, yeah. So if people will be surprised like we were. I thought Edmonds and them were still there, but nope, not at all.
Weird. So they must be living somewhere else.
Yeah, they have to because there was literally no one there. The house was even not gutted, but it was there was an open door there when we were there, and I could see there was nothing there. All the stalls were open, all the doors were open in places. So yeah, it was really odd the way it was left.
Weird. That'd be interesting if they're there now, or I don't think they sold it. You think they sold it?
It looked like they either sold it or abandoned it. I would vote more on abandon at the moment, or whoever bought it isn't doing anything with it. That's an I don't know, but it could be either one of those. So
interesting. Well, We're back. We'll just do a recap of the Skinwalker Ranch history, and this actually comes from Utah.com. Article by Brian Higgins, and it's recent too. March 17th. Did you know that one of the most uniquely mysterious places in the world is right here in Utah? Rumors of UFOs and extraterrestrial beings that have been swirling around this area for years, but despite the stories, no hard evidence has ever been released to show what's really going on there. In fact, the world may never know. But enough about the big U2 claw outside the Loveland Aquarium. Let's talk about Utah's second most mysterious site, Skinwalker Ranch. Located at the Uinta Basin, this paranormal hotspot boasts claims of flying saucers, mysterious lights, unknown illnesses, shape-shifting monsters, and just about everything else you can think of. So well known, in fact, that there have been several books written about it, the property, and it's even the subject of a History Channel show. But just how did this patch of land in eastern Utah gain worldwide notoriety, and how many of the strange stories are worth believing? First question is easy to answer, but we'll let you make up your own mind on the second one. History of the Skinwalker Ranch, the Utes and the Navajo. The earliest known inhabitants of this land played a big part in its ominous name. The property lies on land traditionally inhabited by the Ute tribe, but the term Skinwalker comes from the Navajo legend and translates to by means of it, it goes on all fours. Navajo culture, skinwalkers are evil witches with the ability to shapeshift into any animal or human. The Skinwalker legend is not well understood outside of Navajo culture, but what little is known about it by the outsiders is enough to inspire scary stories of all varieties. One such story involves the Ute tribe. The legend goes that during a time of hostility between the Utes and Navajo, members of the Navajo decided to unleash skinwalkers upon the enemies, and those skinwalkers still stalk the land today. And there's actually, similar to park rangers on the Navajo reservation, they have a group of guys known as the Navajo Rangers, and they have to investigate paranormal activity. So
I've heard of that. Yeah,
it's interesting.
They're like the response team for paranormal activity. Yeah.
Interesting. That's a job I wish I could have. If I just had a little bit of Navajo in me, I think it would. I'd go be a Navajo Ranger.
Yeah. They'll actually look into Bigfoot sightings. They'll look into all. They think Sasquatch sightings are also skinwalkers, which I disagree. Even though they can shapeshift, it's mainly dogmen, werewolf, and other shapeshifting entities that are associated with skinwalkers. But that and possessing entities. But that, yeah, I would like that job too. That would to be in a response team like that. Yeah.
No shit. Interesting place. I wish we could go visit. But yeah, right.
Be nice if conspiracy sector could go on the road as Sage, and go and
it would, investigate all these amazing places. But Shermans. So this is the kind of property owner history. The idea of shape-shifting witches in the present day Uinta Basin might be hard for some to believe, but not for the Sherman family, who purchased the ranch in 1994 with the intention of settling down and relaxing in their new country home. If that sounds like the beginning of a horror movie, it's for good reason. The Shermans experienced a lot of spooky goings on during their time at the ranch. Most notably was something matching the description of a skinwalker. One night, Terry Sherman heard a noise outside and was startled to see a wolf in her yard, one much larger than she had ever seen. Terry grabbed his gun from inside and shot the wolf several times, but his bullets appeared to do no damage whatsoever. Although the wolf did take off eventually, its tracks disappeared entirely as Terry chased it, as if it had simply vanished into thin air. Could it have been an ancient skinwalker that scared them at night? One thing's for certain, it was from the only scare that the Shermans got during their time there. During the years at the ranch, they reported seeing various kinds of flashing lights and mysterious objects in the sky. Strange circles in the fields, mysterious voices floating overhead, and countless cattle mutilations. Unlike those families in horror movies, the Shermans decided to dump the property before it was too late. They sold the ranch in 1996, just 2 years after they bought it, to no other than Rob Bigelow. And we kind of know the history of him and the property. They did a lot of in-depth research like we talked about, kind of kept it top secret, hush-hush. Who knows what they really got? And then, of course, we move on to Brandon Fugel and the History Channel and all their attempts to make it more notorietable and investigate whatever they're doing there. And here's the other local tales. The inhabitants of Skinwalker Ranch may have reported slightly different stories over the years, but they have a few things in common that are hard to shake. Most notable is a strong conviction that what they are seeing is the real deal, and it's a conviction shared by many in the area. Since the 1950s, there have been hundreds of reports of UFOs and unexplained phenomena in the Uinta Basin. And not just at Skinwalker, neighbors of the ranch report seeing various types of the bright lights in the sky, often appearing as a shape that looks like a doorway or portal. Others report giant flying objects. Cattle mutilations are common too. Some neighbors have reported seeing cows that appear to have been struck by lightning with no sign of scorched earth to be found. One group shared a story of trying to spot UFOs one night only to return to find that their car had been moved without a trace of tire tracks in the desert sand. Perhaps most horrifyingly, however, the story of a group of History Channel production assistants who have got to get coffee for Dragon every day. Oh my goodness. Dragon supposedly is the security guard there that's big and buff and nobody wants to mess with. So what's really going on? There are plenty of theories as to what's going on at Skinwalker Ranch, and you guessed it, some of them are pretty out there, but something's definitely going on. So what's the harm in venturing a guess? Theory number one, according to these, whoever put this together, people are lying to get money. Theory two, extraterrestrial visitors. Theory three, interdimensional visitors. Theory four, geophysical processes causing the brain to hallucinate, bro. But that kind of sums up some of the strange happenings in those particular places.
Yeah, I feel that that's all four. Even the last one applies because if you get too high of like an EMF field, that can induce the brain to see hallucinations or open up to dimensional stuff. It can EMF poisoning is like no joke. So it's like electrical bleeds in houses can cause that, and also draw in hauntings in houses as well. Like if you have an electrical bleed, of course you're going to have ghosts and other dimensional beings wanting to show up to go to fuel off of it. So even people's electrical boxes, like we had in Granville in Prescott Valley, they were attracted to this outdoor electrical box that we had out of this fuse box. They would constantly mess with the electronics in the house. My computer had an incident where the battery drained and it was still plugged in. So I knew something was doing it. The computer stayed on, battery drained, it stayed plugged into the wall. So we had that kind of thing. So I believe it's all four of those you said there. Even publicity for the show, of course. When you run a show, you have to have
money's involved in everything.
Yeah, money's involved in all of this. It's never not. So of course it would be that. It's all four of those options. Yeah, I know this is if you see me fidgeting, that's because my hip is messed up. So I noticed, speaking of energy, if I carry my cell phone in my left pocket, it messes up my hip and it makes it so I can't even walk on that hip and that leg. So it's like yeah, I have to keep my phone away from me now. I've become extremely sensitive to technological energies, and I can have my phone sitting on my computer as long as there is a shungite pad underneath it. So which is very odd that's affecting me physiologically like that. I feel this happens in those sites too, where people become warped or physiologically altered by places like this. So so I brought that up because there's a comparison to that. So I'll see who's around. I mean, of course, we get a variety of beings here ourselves doing the different shows that we do, and also here at Conspiracy Sector. Of course, Isaac likes to be the one that talks on this, but we have there's two others we work with by the names of Elena and Vessa. Elena's been on here multiple times as well. So back when we were in Arizona, and it's easier for me to communicate with them out here than it was there. So Isaac has his little focal point I've made, and then like I said, like focal points are also points of communications as well. I made these pieces called communications arcs where that is possible. I did that in Arizona, but I'm planning on making one for these two as well. So I know which one of you two wanted to talk. I know Vessa has been on multiple shows we've done recently. So Elena, okay. Ooh. Strong energy today. There's a lot of energy moving today. It's getting ready to storm, it looks like, again here. But I've noticed that each time these ladies come through and some other groups that they associate with come through, it looks like there's overcast, cloud cover, and they are actually deflecting the what I call the eye in the sky, or lovingly I call it the eye of Sauron, because that's slightly the AI binary network. But clouds, real thick weather patterns, can block this, even though people will ask, well, don't they control weather with AI as well? Yeah, but true nature will deflect most of this garbage. So it's better communicating, ironically, when it's a rainstorm. Just not over the top lightning and stuff like that. That could disrupt. But cloud cover, rains, and maybe a little thunder and lightning. But ironically, is some of the best channeling conditions you can get. So uh, so sometimes I'm being told.
Blur.
Yeah. So okay, Elena, give me 2 seconds here. Hmm. Ooh, a lot of energy flying around. I'm getting severe cotton mouth from some of the energies here. Many people might get that in places like Stardust or Skinwalker as well. So in a hotbed, so activity. So Lana, yes, I'll shut up so you can talk. Yes. All right. All right. They do. They all three of them do. The Isaac and the two ladies do that to me constantly. So yeah. And yes, if people are curious, I do talk to these beings quite often. So it's like regular conversation. It's just that if somebody saw me in the house, I'd just be, they'd see expressions on my face, but no words coming out of my mouth. I'd be having the conversation, but nobody'd see me speaking unless I actually chose to verbalize it. So, okay. Mm. Oh, yeah, it's a little strong, but okay, yeah. Yes, everyone, this is Elena, and my lady Vessa is here, as is Isaac in the background, and multiple others that he does not see at the moment because of the overcastness of the moment. This subject is actually interesting because everything that you guys have said on it is absolutely correct. He said about the government activity, ET activity, dimensional activity, all of the above. But it is also what we were trying to bring across to him, like with the phone altering the section of his hip and leg, for instance, because there's scar tissue and all this other stuff from the accident, which you guys were talking about before recording. In this, if you have an injury and you go like that, you go into an energetic place. You don't know what it could be enhancing or what it could be detracting or what it could be healing, like what happened with the lady that went and got healed. Then you have John Edmonds and his wife, Joyce, that were harassed and harangued by the aliens wanting certain materials from them, genetic materials and the like, and wanting them to basically be subservient to them. So, with that, with an anomaly like this, yes, it is a rotating multiversal glob, basically, like what he was saying. This could disrupt uh, both disrupt and heal things, even at the same time, could heal section and disrupt another. Very much like you being around your 5G and AI energies and radiations from your phones and your devices, disrupt you on the cellular level and can permanently warp cells as well. Being near a temporal anomaly can do the same. Very much like, think of it this way, you always hear the stories about nuclear radiation coming up with multiple combinations, or he says basically infinite diversity and infinite combinations within the multiverse. Think of a nuclear radioactivity like that, where yes, you can have mutated animals, people with two heads, things of that nature. Frogs with a bunch of eyes, things of that nature. This can happen with an anomaly like that because also there's radiation involved from the old wars, since the Orions were radioactive in nature, as well as because they destroyed Atlantis with a nuclear blast and flood. With this, though, you can either heal if you're going there with a good intention, or you can hinder if you're just leaving it up to the anomaly. It's going to latch onto something in your genetics and mutate something you don't want, kind of like with a Smallville or X-Men type of effect like they had with the kryptonite, or it may do nothing at all. In this case, in his case, it did absolutely nothing at all. In Joanna's case, it did nothing at all. But with certain people, it may change them in a particular way. So somebody may go there and report one thing. Somebody else may go there and report another thing, and they could be polar opposites on the experience. But there's one commonality, that it's the anomaly they're experiencing with all the beings, messages, and energies and energetic fields, magnetic fields they're in as this thing rotates. With multiple portals on either ends of all the strings, think about a ball of yarn with a portal on each and every bit of frizz on the yarn. That is what you're dealing with. This is just not a normal anomaly. Skinwalkers is worse. This is why there is a downed ship there. This is why aliens, AI, everything is in government, corporate interests are all interested, and military is all interested in that place. The only one other site on the planet that actually overtakes Skinwalker would be your Bermuda Triangle, but that has been cultivated by your military, as he said, where they experience this in their SSP time frame. This with Skinwalker and Stardust, they want this under close scrutiny, but there are also some things that they're trying to put public, again, as he said, to steer a narrative, but there is truth within that narrative. He calls this the yield, where you have truth and fiction in one ball. There is the fiction being the narrative involved or the pre-planned show involved, and also the money grab, all of what you've said before. But all the rest is still true. Hence, you have the yield before, him and Joanna like to say, between dark and light interests, which is very, as you would say, black and white or this or that, but you get what is being said. So I can go into questions if you like.
Yeah. If anybody ever has like a close encounter with a skinwalker, like personal experience, what's something that they can do to immediately protect themselves and after the encounter?
This is what he figured out when he was in Arizona. The plant known as wolfsbane actually helps out quite a bit with skinwalkers. This particular plant was used in the old world to repel werewolves. Werewolf is a form of a skinwalker. Skinwalker is actually more generalized to a shapeshifter, very much like in your True Blood, where you had the character of Sam, who was a shapeshifter, but they also had werewolves and they had vampires in that as well. So that also can shapeshift because they showed them growing their fangs and whatnot. But this is also due to a viral contagion many, many centuries ago. But with skinwalkers and werewolves, they are highly allergic to two things: silver and wolfsbane. So he combined both of these into his liquids and his herbs. This helped out greatly with some rogue dogmen that were in the area. They are related to skinwalkers, you see. Not all of them are. Some are in their solid form, very much like humans are walking around in their solid form, but have the ability to do much more with their physiology, you see. So, and their energies. So one is like a bastardized version of the ancient line of werewolves and other shape-shifting entities. The way you repel it mentally and physically, not only with just those means, but with a dimensional shield that you can put around you, is if one is unleashed on you by a cursing sort, like a dark magician, a native shaman, whomever, satanic cult, Luciferian cult, and this does happen quite often, unfortunately. The way you fend it off is by making the environment of the place where it is trying to get to so uninviting. And that means don't invite other things into your life, but make sure that space is a non-reactive space to the friction energies that it is trying to put out or siphon and or possess the body of the person they're in. If somebody has cursed your genetics in that particular way, you are letting off a certain scent. You think of a predator tracking a prey. In this, they feed off the fear of that individual, the smell of it. In this, yes, it is natural to be afraid of something like this, and he has encountered this. He just reaches out and he'll cut the head off of it and do his thing, just like with the John Edmonds, but in the energetic sense. With this, though, if you were to encounter this, yes, it is natural to have a natural set of emotions towards a situation like this. But if you notice yourself changing as a result of something that it is not you, that you're 50% there already. if this is noticed. The other thing is a non-reactive calm, but also a stance that your home is your castle, purely yours and not to something of that nature. Also, doing what he calls the dreamtime revocation, revocating any agreements made in dreamtime. This is where some of the agreements and curses come through. And also something really simple, detoxification of your hands and feet, like what was shown synchronistically in that little ad that you saw in that presentation there. You see, doing these things in certain types of salt, silver, and colloidal silver, also along with some of his orgone pieces that he's created, shungite, magnetite mixtures, and as well amber, frankincense, and myrrh also does this. Wolf's bane, also laced with silver liquid, and colloidal silver will keep them physically away. You do these things together in conjunction with doing your internal work. You are essentially untouchable at that point.
Very good information. I was just researching something about what you were talking about with the skinwalkers, but you kind of summed it all up pretty good. Some of the other phenomenon, like the portals, describe the difference between all the portals that Chris was talking about. There's portals, there's vortexes. Explain the differences between all of them and, like, I guess their strength, from like least strength, strongest one to most strongest one, and their effect.
Oh, yes, this is actually quite interesting. Both portals and vortexes can be generated, of course. You can take a certain set of effects in nature and replicate them, very much like you can grow genetically bred food, for instance, given the exact codes and formulas of a particular plant or genomic structure, or even clone an individual. You can do that with energies as well. But the vortexes, say in your Sedona area, the multiple ones that are there, some were natural to an area that was heavily trafficked by ETs in the ancient history. That was an ancient ET site there. The Earth sometimes generates these vortexes. Can bring about a strong energy, both spiritual and also enhancing what you are, very much like what John was saying in that video. It enhances what you are. That is what vortexes do. And also, this is what some of his orgone pieces do, because they create the torsion field like a vortex. Now, if you get a series of smaller vortexes or a large vortex, kind of like a tornado, that can be formed from multiple small ones that can join together. This has actually been seen to happen. This then collapse in on itself and form a portal. Within that, a portal is much stronger. A vortex will always evolve into a portal. It's like a raptor evolving into a chicken sort of thing. It always, or a lizard evolving into a bird. It always seems to happen. So this of the portal. Now, a portal can have a point here, point A, and point B, aligning with any parts of the Earth, dimensional and otherwise, any time frame. Like, you could step through a portal, you would be in a point in the past, step through quantumly backwards, you could be back to where you are. This happened to someone that almost disappeared in Arizona, as he's mentioned on past conspiracy sectors, where he stepped into an old ghost town in Arizona, thought he was still in the same time frame. They saw his cell phone and thought he was like satanic of some kind. But he was told by a guide back out the door, and he appeared back in his own time. That is a portal that was aligned to particular frequencies and particular time frames. That's one string. Amplify that 1,000-fold, and you have a time fracture. Think of a ball of yarn that each hair or each bit of frizz on the fragment of yarn are all portals that both open and close simultaneously, kind of like valves in a heart, or like somebody blinking their eyes, or a wound that is both healing and festering at the same time, because it is linked to the multiverse and different dimensions. So it is all of these things rolled into one. Portals can open here, close, open here, close, open here, here, here. And they will continuously do so. And whoever passes through it empowers the anomaly. It's like rubbing the area the wrong way. Very much he saw a Star Trek Next Generation episode where there certain warp fields rubbed a certain section of space the wrong way and created an anomaly that was destabilizing that part of space. The time fractures, though they can be destabilizing, they are also stable as well because they are linked to the multiverse, where you have both an is and is not sense of rules. What does not happen here happens there. So therefore, if you conglomerate that together, it is both unstable and stable at the same time, because you have it constantly rotating. The strongest anomaly of them all in those three would be a temporal fracture.
I trying to take it all in just because it's like a lot of information, but I wonder how all these exactly, how all those different things exactly interwork with all the different paranormal creatures, I guess, with the aliens, with the different skinwalkers, Bigfoots, whatever, people just randomly walking into something and going missing.
Yeah, what takes place with one of those? Say if you have a rotating ball or even just a portal, mind you, you could have something from another dimensional state pass through. You could have from another time. Say you have the dire wolf, for instance, that's also been sighted at Skinwalker. The one that they were shooting, mind you, that was a Skinwalker. That was not a dire wolf. It just happened to be walking on all fours. That was a werewolf. And they are pretty much impervious to bullet fire, except, again, silver bullets. So they could be shot constantly, and it would not do anything to them. There are government versions of these where they've bred certain werewolf DNA to be soldiers, cat DNA to be soldiers, kind of like your Witcher is in your Witcher lore, but a super soldier, or like with the different mutagens like a Witcher would have in that. They have that where they've taken that DNA and used it to make dog soldiers and stuff like that for their conquest on other planets. But with, say, an anomaly, say you had, say, some beings from another world, like animals, for instance. This also goes into your Witcher, where they had the conjunction of the spheres, where all the portals lined up, and this is where both creatures, the cryptids and vampires, also came from. Hence, why they needed the soldiers to hunt them down, or the Witchers to hunt them down. This is the exact same effect. You have Earth, you visually see Earth, but also all around you there are onion layers upon onion layers of passages to other worlds that both share your sun and don't. Just like in the series, where you could pass through a portal, you could be on another world, but you were still here. There's another dimensional world, but you still have the same sun, you still have the same environment, you eat the same food, you live in the same type of houses. There's a multiverse, which is multiple Earths, too. That's more complicated than he believes it is as well. But with this, say you have a being from there to here. They could use that fracture and kind of get sucked into and fall in over here. And on top of that, the anomaly would act almost like a conditioning corridor, where they would end up being okay to be in the environment over here, even with all the pollutants and all the energies. This is the same as the multiverse. This is the same as any of these worlds. Your Garden of Eden was this for your Asgard. You see, going from Midgard to Asgard, they needed a conditioning area to be able to go to Asgard, to be able to also survive the energies that were there. It is no different going from where we are to where you are. There needs to be a passage between. A portal with an arch usually takes care of this. Or as he says, there was a Star Trek episode called The Lazarus Effect, where you saw Kirk go through a corridor to from our universe, or this universe, to an antimatter universe, and he could stay there with a person he had to interact with. So physically interact with. And it was day on one side and night on another. In our world, it is actually in the more towards evening now. So essentially the time is off, but we share the same sky, the same constellations, the same sun. The sun will also be dimensional in nature, as well as will a planet or world. A planet is a passage to a multitude of worlds. Earth is unique because it has far more than even we've encountered. Earth is on a temporal nexus itself. This makes it unique. There are other planets like that. Other planets go to other worlds as well, but you have a system that was also based on the 9 realms of the Asgardian kingdom, which then pass on to these other worlds within worlds. That's why there's a difference between planet and world. You see, a planet and world is saying the difference, as he likes to say, between a continent and a country. So this is exactly where we are with that. But this is what you would go through. You would have like a being that would say walk from one environment and end up in your own. This is where you get some of the cryptids and some of the creatures from. Some of them are from government projects that do escape. They try to distract people by saying it's all that, but it is coming from these other worlds within worlds as well. You have also certain stones as well. He likes to compare amethyst, for instance. It is a bleed through or a infusion of the earth on one end of the spectrum where you are, and in another world where certain energies meet and you have amethyst bleeding through, or like in your Elder Scrolls series, when you approach the portal to the Shivering Isles, where you have the plants that exist in the Shivering Isles that find their way to the other side of the portal, or in Oblivion, where you see the grasses and stuff on the other side of the portal on your end. This is essentially what is taking place in a nutshell.
Very good information. I guess one final one to take us out. Appreciate it. Just what type of technology do you think that may have been experimented with or created at Skinwalker Ranch?
This is actually quite interesting. During the Bigelow years, they were running experiments not only on the anomalies that were there and beings they were finding, but there are such because of the temporal fracture, they were scanning on what time frames things would end up in, and also the technologies that were used were you would see this as an oscillator of some kind. This is essentially what is used on the island that's at the center of the Bermuda Triangle, where literally you could take the anomaly and control it, where you could literally rotate it by a series of combinations, like in your Stargate program, where they have the Stargates linked on certain latitude, longitudes within the galaxy to different planets and even different galaxies eventually when they're able to enhance the power. It's similar with the anomalies, where you could literally, if you could control it and wield it, you could have it go anywhere and any when, anytime, any place, any universe. So what they were attempting to do is create an oscillator to control the rotation of the anomaly so it wasn't chaotic. It wasn't just a spinning ball of chaos. The ship that is buried there is an alien ship that crashed there over 1 million years ago. And this particular ship has been buried in sediment for a long time. That crew was also trying to scan this anomaly. They were also trying to see what this was all about, because they were scanning things on the other end of the spectrum. Orion Wars aside, they ripped it across space-time and into other times and then made these areas worse. But there were base anomalies in place already, base things without wounds and portals and anomalies already. It's just they're more chaotic because of the multiversal ripping effect that the Orions did, since they came from another universe. They're essentially Asgardian and human from another universe, but hence grays, you have white elf-looking ones, elongated skull ones, etc., etc. But what they were doing at Skinwalker Ranch was attempting to control this. This is what you're also seeing in the show now. They're showing them measure this, having a double-blind crew doing this. Of course, the entertainment of the show factor, and also the man that got injured with his scalps, very similar to himself here when he got hit with a dew weapon. Certain people have a physiology where their skin will pull loose or their scalp will pull loose because of the energies coursing through them. And this is what happened to the man on that show. The ship that's there is also made of an alloy that is highly resistant to an anomaly like that. There was a dimensional craft that became fused underneath the Earth over 1 million years ago. This is the actual natural makeup of Earth that has been warped slightly by the old wars and also people using these portals and anomalies. But the main bit of research was what was coming through on one end of the door and what came through on our end of the door.
Very interesting. Well, thank you much. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. These are always fun and interesting. Thank you, and blessings to all of you.
Mm-hmm. And popping back through.
Mm. Yeah, I could see like a flip book of what these images look like. She's not wrong on the on what Bigelow was doing there, the research that was being done there. They do this in bases a lot where they've done dimensional portal work, and such, where they are testing to see if something is done in one place, like if we say had a power source here, uh, and could we draw power from other universes and other places. They displayed this on the show Stargate Atlantis, where they attempted to use this big 0 point energy module, and they were seeing if they could draw from a parallel universe. Somebody from that universe, one of the parallel versions of one of the main characters, came in and said, "Oh, you were going to collapse and incur on our universe if you did this." They displayed incursions in the show, in the movie Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which was very accurate. But with this, they were attempting to draw power via forced anomaly to be able to draw power from multiple universes, but couldn't quite do it. It was too volatile. That's why certain 0 point energy modules are too volatile. But these experiments do go on, and I always joke a little bit, because there's a episode of Family Guy where they're jumping from one universe to the next. And they go to this one universe where if somebody has to go to the bathroom, the poop just vaporizes from them. So they go into another universe, and they said, "Oh, there's the poop from the other universe." What happens is, if something disappears, it just doesn't vanish. It ends up somewhere else. Like if it disappears from here, like a missing person, garbage, anything like that, it'll end up in another dimension, in another world, in another universe, and it will always have an effect somewhere. It's the cause and effect of the multiverse and dimensional states. It's essentially Newton's law, essentially, when one force is applied here, essentially, it's an equal and opposite reaction. So that applies to the multiverse somewhere in opposite polar opposites or similarities. So this is essentially what some of these experiments would have to deal with in a place like that. And Bigelow would always talk about Mars. There were civilizations on Mars. People would the news heckled him a lot. I'm not sure why he chose to come out in the open unless some handler somewhere in the cabal or in the corporations was telling him to plant information somewhere.
Yeah.
Not judging the guy, but I'm just saying that's usually why that happens. But this is
gaslighting.
Basically gaslighting a response. Yeah, essentially is what it is. But in all, there is truth in this information, regardless of some of the if there's hoaxes or if there's showboating for the public or gaslighting or anything like that. There's still truth in these experiments and in these anomalies and in this activity that's happening in these two places, regardless of all the other showboating that's taking place there. So that's why I wanted to talk about that, because of the complexity of the topic. The multiverse itself would be, would take forever and a day to talk about. But that's what I'm at with that. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else, Aubrey?
I think we covered it all pretty good. I want to thank everybody for joining us once again. Let us know if you had any strange experiences. Let us know your theories behind these mysterious ranches out in the middle of nowhere with strange happenings bumping all throughout the night. I hope you've been well since the last episode, and we'll see you for the next one. Thank you.
Yes, and you are now leaving the conspiracy sector. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we're here at Stardust Ranch outside of here, and I gotta make this quick because there's no trespassing here. As you can see, I put the powder down, the land clearing powder here, which will always be here, so wind and the water will blow it around. This is the famous area where there's a time fracture like Skinwalker Ranch. Now, I gotta do this really fast because who knows who's gonna come out. We already had a distraction with somebody pulling up behind us a minute ago. They were just asking for directions, but that's just somebody to delay long enough not to do this process. So, powder's usually good enough. It's already fundamentally changed the energies in the area by millimeters and centimeters. But before I start, questions. What is the status of the time fracture on this property before and after the powder? And what else is going on this property? Alien-wise, just like what was famous, Alien-wise, where the guy famously chopped off 4 Greys' heads on this property. And we'll go from there.
S-Box. Scanning FM.
I heard Shungite on there. Is that true? Yep. Okay. Who do we have here, please? Okay, who benevolent do we have here without any conflicting agendas, please? All right, any benevolence wants us to give a message at this time? Isaac, Eleni, and Vessa, any of you? All right, thank you. All right. I'm now closing the circle for this Ghost Box session as of this moment in time. It is 12:14 p.m. Arizona Standard Time, Saturday, January 14th, 2023. Thank you. Okay, we're done here at Stardust Ranch, and nobody's come out here to question us so far. But I also am declaring as of this moment in time that nothing is to follow us home that is not for our highest good, highest vibrations, and will not disrupt. That includes ghosts, not knowing where they are or what they're doing, anything involving the time fracture on this property, any of those things. So, I now am closing this circle completely. It is 12:15 p.m. Arizona Standard Time, Saturday, January 14th, 2023. Thank you. Okay, yeah, this turns out that the guy that pulled up behind us is actually one of their people, and he was just acting like he was looking for directions, no different than the Georgia Guidestone guy that we told you about. This is, I mean, the distractor thing's common, but this one was more security for the ranch itself. But, you know, always without fail, something usually does occur in some fashion like that when you're trying to do something. At the Georgia Guidestones, we were just doing the law of one there, but they still was always there, just from seemingly out of nowhere. And this guy kind of did that, pulled the ninja routine too. He pulled up behind us like immediately. So, but the deed was done. The powder was left. The Ghost Box session was done. So. When you're dealing with a haunted property like that, it is expected that somebody is going to show up periodically, either to stop you, or on the flip side, paranormal investigator is usually always going to show up of some sort on a property that's considered to be one of the top 10 most haunted sites in the country. So, and I did say nothing would follow us home from that. So, it is 12:19 p.m. Arizona Standard Time, Saturday, January 14th, 2023. Thank you. One thing I did forget to mention, and we were just talking about this a moment ago, was, the goal is to close that fracture and, or at least nudge it in a different direction than it is. It can be connected to a multitude of different parallel universes, time frames, timelines, anything. Dimensional states. This is why you see on Skinwalker Ranch where you have anywhere from werewolves, dogmen, aliens, everything, because they get fueled off it in their starships, their spaceships. You have crashed UFOs there, everything. And one thing I didn't mention or didn't ask the ghost box, which I doubt whether I would have gotten a completely truthful answer, was if the two sites are connected or not. Which I don't think so, but time fractures can connect to each other, but it's more like the micro to the macro. It's like a miniature version of Skinwalker. But the energy was pretty rotten, and leaving that area is it's like you're slingshotted out. That's how my mother and Laverne felt about Guadalupe and Phoenix. Like they felt like they were leaving a slingshot going down the highway, because that feels that way. A slower moving energy into a faster moving one, it feels like a slingshot effect. But the paranormal investigators have often seen at sites of time fractures. There was one, Ghost Adventures was on this site, the Stardust Ranch, but also on the Conjuring House site as well, where there's another one of these. And people were getting weird text messages there. They were getting partial, weird, fractured text messages, phone calls, EVPs. And you could be getting a message from a paranormal investigator that's on the other end of the time fracture in another universe, thinking they're getting ghosts, and both sides think they're getting ghosts. That's how it was at the fort in St. Augustine when they went there as well, where people had been sighting ghosts for a long time. And it turns out the soldiers that were there were just seeing shadows of the investigators that would later come, and then reported them as ghosts, and then the cycle began again. So, even though there's not a fracture there, it's just a thinning of the veil there. Still, that's where we were in St. Augustine. But this would be a little bit more direct. The aliens, some of them are not too inclined to close it or try to, because it's a fuel source. Just like in Doctor Who, when in Cardiff, they went back in time and saw some dimensional aliens were coming through a time fracture, and they were affected by the Time War. They ended up being shysters. But my point is, later on, the doctors said they could fuel the TARDIS over that very same fracture in the modern day. So they were giving a clue as to what these could be used for. Vortexes in Sedona were used for that too. The military tried capping them off, and the Earth shook them off at that point. And the vortexes are back to how they were prior to the military interference. We had another recording on that. I'm not going to repeat the information, but I'll post that at some point on our websites again from the Patreon when we have that up. But this is what I wanted to bring up, because it bears repeating a little bit, but at the same time, time fractures for the most part should be left alone. But we also noticed that the owner was no longer there. The person that was famous for actually killing the aliens on that property. Normally, the Greys leave you alone if you manage to harm any of them, manage to spook them. They'll leave you alone, except harass you from a distance. But that may not be all that's there. It could be typical time fracture, where, again, parallel universes, dimensions, expressions, times, everything. So, he was no longer there. It was just their security people that were there. There were no ranch hands, nothing. But the properties around were active. So that should tell you something about that. That they just probably wanted peace above all else. So I'll leave that here. Sometimes that's more important than the haunted site. So it is 12:44 p.m. Arizona Standard Time, Saturday, January 14th, 2023. Thank you.